Okay, folks, good morning. A little bit off to a late start, and not really due to me oversleeping. I had a rough night last night. I went to sleep probably not too long after my feed shut off. And at 1 o'clock in the morning, I was up for about 2.5 hours with a neck pain. I don't know if it's a neck pain or a headache or something. And no, it's not due to painting here. This is actually really comfortable. I can do probably 12 hours and be fine. But I felt like crap. And I woke up and still felt like crap. And I'm on the mend. But so when I couldn't sleep last night, or really this morning, I went through everything trying to find that Panzer crew. Now, I don't have that many guys, but I have, 6 or 7 figures from War Games Foundry. And I can't find them. I don't know where they are. I don't know where they are because I need to populate some of these open vehicles. First of all, I started with I don't have any open vehicles at all. Let's make sure this is plugged in completely. Because filming last night, I didn't have the plug all the way in. It didn't charge it. My phone was like at 40-something% last night. I didn't notice, of course, until I'm offline, but at first I didn't have any vehicles with open turrets. And then I'm like, well, let's just populate them with some people and make them look good. Gives people a sense of scale, gives you an opportunity to paint some figures, which I'm always a fan of. When I started doing these 20mm vehicles again, I knew I was going to be happy with my figures. I've been doing figures for 25 years and been happy with them. But the vehicles I was new at, ended up being happy with the vehicles. And I go, let's put some figures in them. But I don't want to put just anybody. I've got some folks that I did find from Drew's Militia, but I'm not sure that I want to commit to these guys being the ones that are in here. So I may have to do some looking over the weekend and get some tank crews. Anyhow, no big deal, just another thing. Okay, so I'm kind of at a standstill because I can't really finish. I need to order crosses and I need to order tank crew. I can't finish the Panzer IV, the 2 Panzer IVs, and the Panther's a barrel issue. It comes in on Monday. So let's take a look at the tank crew here. And then we'll talk about some other 20mm figures I have here when the people come online. Because right now it looks like everybody's having tea or haven't woken up yet. So we got this crew member here, this crew guy, that I think turned out pretty good. I haven't decided what kind of tufts I want to put on him, but he is going to have tufts. And we have something that's metallic. Yeah, there you go. Stuck to the side of that, so if I have to bring him somewhere, I might as well have the figures metallic. Boy, I'm having a rough time getting started here. Magnetic. All right, let's get a new cardboard here. got these Soviet guys that I even have the magnets on them already. So these guys are prime candidates to do that sort of thing. So let's see, the guys that are armed first. Here's another one. I already started on him. He's a prime candidate to go next. All right, let's get the wet palette out here. I have no idea what condition this thing's in. All right, let's look at the blue situation. I'm gonna say use Prussian for these guys. It makes sense that it's the one that's all the way out here. Let's get some Prussian blue out here. I think this is wet enough. It's annoying not to find things you have. Let's get a little bit of new black out here. And I don't think we have any live white. The snotling sound. Feeling better already. That's all I needed to hear. Okay. Oh, one more thing. Let's search for. We're gonna need this one, right? Yep. And for faces, that one, maybe that one. Okay. Where'd we leave off? We were bringing that blue all the way up. John Peter, happy Easter to you too. There will not be a show tomorrow. There almost wasn't a show this morning. But I'm kind of in pain from a headache, and I remember when I was younger, if I had a headache, I'd just stay in bed, and that was the best place to be. And that is the worst place now. I just feel like massive throbbing. I just need to get out of the bed and do something. Stand up. But we're going to be out of town, so there won't be a show tomorrow. And I was up for about 2.5 hours this morning. At like 1:30 in the morning, after I'd gone to bed for a couple hours. About 3 hours, actually. And I picked this place up a little bit, looking for the Panzer crewmen, and couldn't find them. So we're going to forget they exist and look at getting replacements. And we got to paint these guys anyways. We were working on these crewmen. Relax by painting. No, you know, the other thing is not necessarily relax by painting, but do something so you feel like you did something and have a good day because of it. Just sitting around and not doing anything doesn't feel good. You know, I hate the fact that I woke up at 6:20 instead of 5 o'clock in the morning. I feel like I lost an hour and a half and don't feel any better. You know? But this is no more of a painful position than if I was sitting around and reading something. It certainly hurts less than if I'm in bed. Which makes no sense because I have a really good bed. But things that once were no longer are as you get older. Just a lazy day. No tours, huh? Are you the driver too, or are you just the guy on the microphone saying, over here we got the castle, the Schloss something or another? Or are you the driver as well? I need to empty this and put a new one. I'll be right back. I saw an advertising either yesterday or the day before. It came up, I think, on Facebook for a brush washing device. And it was kind of an ingenious thing. It had this receptacle, maybe the size of this glass, that was full of water. And there was like this little, that sat up here, that had like a channel that went to your rinsing station. So you would go and you would rinse your thing, and I guess you would press on the bottom of it, you know, to get all the gook out. And then you would press like a flush button and it would send it somewhere else. And I saw it on there and I'm like, well, that's kind of inventing something that we don't need but looks cool. I'm like, all right, so how much is this thing? And it's in pounds sterling, which of course to me means let's rate people in America. That's the new thing. The shipping now is just stupid. I was looking at something the other day from Australia, and the minimum shipping is like freaking $45 Australian, which is like $30 US. I'm like, I don't need something that bad. You know, nobody wants to pay for shipping. You know, but I thought that device was kind of neat, but it just took up too much space. I mean, it was like, I think it took up like half of this palette, this wet palette, and I don't like my space being compromised here. I start bumping into things. I'm really klutzy when I take my glasses off, because if it's farther than 7 or 8 inches from my face, it's really, really blurry for me. And I start acting like a damn mole. Except I think moles smell bad, so maybe that's the difference between a mole and I don't smell bad. You fly to Canada on the 4th of May. I do guided motorhome tours, so I do everything. Drive, guide, entertain, juggler. Do you wear a funny outfit? Do you have a handle? Do you have a handle? Each couple has their own rented motorhome. Okay. The next tour starts in Vancouver. I hear that's beautiful. Cold and wet. That's where I need to live. I need to live somewhere that's cold and wet. However, I don't like rain, so can it just be damp? Cold and damp. Where is that? Denmark? I don't want to live anywhere I feel short. And I'm like 5'11" and shrinking, so I don't, if I ever feel short, there's some tall mothers around. Isn't that the tallest people in the world, or is that Holland? Holland's got the tallest people in the world. Denmark's pretty far up there. I'm a whole foot taller than my dad, so almost. So I did pretty good. I'm already feeling better. My Native American name is Dances with Tourist. Nice. Wait, that's not considered cultural appropriation, is it? I don't believe in none of that new terminology. I'm going to get some more coffee. I got a whole thing of water there, so we should be able to hydrate properly. And then I'll stop going away. How about that? I'll come across stuff and I'll go like, oh, I should change my online name to such and such. But it's just too complicated to have another name that people know you by. And so many people do it. So many people do it as, they don't use their real name. And I don't know why. It's not like people can't find out who you are. But some people are genuinely lazy and they don't put two and two together. And I figure, well, I hate to do all this stuff and then not get credit for it. Or it just adds a layer of confusion. I think it's time to give this guy a facial. Funny thing, it used to be one of the things I dreaded the most. When I was doing 1/35th scale models, I used to dread doing faces, and now I look forward to them. Well, speaking of Germany, in the last month, I have seen a lot of people that have put up posts that have the crooked spider flag in them, and it wasn't to promote that regime. It was to, on their models or in war games, and I guess I should check back and see if they got banned. I'm just afraid I'm afraid of putting that stuff on there and the automatic, um, what do you call it? The automatic filter flagged my post, and the next thing you know, I can't post things for a month. So we played a game of rapid fire the other day, and a couple of the vehicles they weren't my vehicles. Not that I would have a problem with them on my vehicles, but they had those air recognition flags on them, and I specifically went in the photo and blurred the center out. As I don't want any trouble with the automatic filter, whatever the hell it's called. I find no one affected by cultural appropriation cares. It's always someone else who's fighting for your rights, whether you want it or not. Isn't that true? Isn't that true? Like that whole controversy about taking the Native American girl off the Land O'Lakes. So it's better we just forget about those people that even existed, huh? I guess that's better. I don't know. I'm old school. I don't believe in none of that crap. When if I want to be rude to a certain people of a certain demographic, they'll know. I won't be dancing around the campfire. Oh, this guy's grabbing the pistol wrong. I guess people in the 40s didn't know how to fire a firearm either. He's got the little teacup hold on the pistol. I'm I always watch for that when I'm watching movies. See who's holding the pistol wrong. So I actually have some recognition flags that I printed. I don't know where the hell they went, but it's to put on my vehicles when I'm playing here. But I'm not gonna put pictures of them online. Not because I'm gonna offend anybody. If people watch my stuff, they know how I feel about that stuff. But I don't want to have all kinds of trouble that I have to explain to. It's not even somebody filing a complaint against you. It's just they're the automatic. I'm going to call it the automatic filter, but the same thing that finds the girls listening to a theme song of a show in the other room that I can't even hear. It'll pick up things like that automatically, and the next thing you know, you got to fight all of Googleism to go in there and try to undo stuff, and they're not going to do it. They got bigger fish to fry. So, I just end up creating a bunch of work for myself. So it's just easier to just avoid it if I'm going to film it or anything like that. And then you got places like Reddit where you can put all kinds of horrible things and mean it. Because I'll be honest with you, I have a sick sense of humor sometimes, and I'll say things that are culturally insensitive, but I don't mean any of it. It's just because I have that dark sense of humor that I make fun of everything. But there's people on Reddit that really mean it. I mean, there's horrible people on there. And you can post anything on there and it's fine. They don't come and visit you. You can actively question the Holocaust and stuff like that. All right, this has got some fingers that need to be shown. Now, if I ever do get around to doing Africa Core vehicles, I am going to put the palm on there with the little crooked spider. We just have to film it far enough that you can't see it. But that's a ways away. Mr. Barnes, welcome. Why is it I'm not hearing nothing? I don't know. You have that Mexican internet, that's why. Sometimes it's my fault. Not this time. I used to have that horrible internet, and then it's been good. I could film while people were watching stuff on the surfing the internet in the other room. We're not all conflicting with each other. It's like it should always be. So we got to go look for some Balkenkreuzes, and we need to look for some crewmen. You know, 'cause I've got a lot of. I like putting the crewmen in there because it just gives it a sense of scale. So we'll see. It doesn't matter for me not being able to finish something. The important thing is to not be like, F this, I'm going to go do something else. As long as I'm painting something, it always going towards the same goal. So, and I did get the partisans out here. So at some point, I'm going to get a wild hair up my ass and start working on them. And I think, honestly, that's probably the best way to play the game with new people, is to have them play partisans. French partisans. What do I like to call them? Maquis. Because if you call them Maquis, you're not talking about guys in Yugoslavia. Perfect timing. Just epoxied a skull to a body for the third time. Oh. It's being difficult, isn't it? So, I mentioned this before. I'm really successful for a couple reasons now. And it's successful meaning I'm able to keep my momentum going doing this hobby. You guys are part of it. You guys keep me entertained to a certain degree, where I can't just walk up and, unless I've got to pee or need to get a beverage, I pretty much stay on task. I don't quit this after 15 minutes because I leave you guys hanging, unless I'm falling asleep. But I think that's been like 30 minutes. I think I've lasted at least 30 minutes. That's only happened a couple times. But I also have all these tools that I've collected over the years that, when I started and I was 19, I didn't have the money for. And it's not that they're expensive. It's just that, you got to kind of pick and choose to have things. And, the things like, drill bits and things like that. And one of these things that I may have mentioned the other day, that's really handy, is to have this stuff, and it's what you use to put poster stuff up. And it's called, I like to call it Stickum, because I can never remember the name of it. But it's called Blue Tack when it's blue. And it's really handy to hold things in place while they glue. Here's the case in point of this. Here's the old Stug, and I had to cantilever this hatch over the edge of this resin thing, and it was so I just took some of this, put it underneath there so it was holding it enough, and then glued it, and then it would stay in place until it's dried. Same thing with this barrel. You don't want to put epoxy there. Even though this epoxy is super strong, you put it there, and then after a while it droops, and now it's epoxied down with a little bit of a gap at the top. All these little things these little quote-unquote tricks that, that I have accumulated throughout the years keeps you from being frustrated and just walking away from it, which benefits nobody. So you don't want to buy stuff and then not finish it. So different materials. solving problems at work. You know, a perfect example is that sprocket wheel I had on an SDK of Z251. Whenever I get around to painting those guys, I got about 10 of them to do. Half of them are D's that I collected that are pre-built, and the other ones are ones that I had. I think one's a B or an A, and the rest of them are C's. Well, the god awful Eschi kit, just the sprocket wheel broke off on it, and when I was building it 20 years ago, I'm like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. Whenever I try to glue it, it doesn't hold in place. I didn't have epoxy at the time, and when I started doing this last year and getting back into it and fixing up all the stuff, I basically put a metal rod through it. I took a T-pin. I took one of these. These things are really handy, by the way, and they come. Can I even reach it? No. Well, one of those T-pins, and drilled it, epoxied it in place, drilled the other end, and I'm putting the rubber track on it. The one on the other side breaks, so I replaced that one too. Just stuff like that just, I don't know if I got the patience, I built up the skills, or I don't know. But I didn't have it 25 years ago. 25 years ago? Yeah, 30 years ago. Because when you're starting off modeling, oh, you need to buy this, you need to buy this other thing. I said, you're starting off modeling, you're probably a kid. You're buying the minimum. You're buying like the kit and, glue, and that's all you have. X-Acto knife. You don't have like nip. You can't just, you can't go buy a $10 kit and spend $60 in supplies to go with it. You kind of have to accumulate those over the years. But those kind of things, the sooner you buy them, the longer you get to use them for. A light. Man, a light is like the most important thing. And have a table that's not shaky. Okay, you can't work on a table that's not shaky, but you got to have a light that works really well. So this light, I think these are like $200 now. I think at the time they were $100 and they were 50% off. I got 2 of them. And if they were $300, I'd buy another one. And obviously, if I needed to, it's worth every penny. It gets used every single time you do something. It is a good value. I'm on my 3rd computer. And I've gone through 3 computers, and they're expensive. And they cost all over $2,000 each one that I've ever bought. Because they were high performance at the time. But if you break down how long you had them, even though they don't work anymore, it cost about 25 cents a day. Did I get my 25 cents worth a day out of the computer? Absolutely. So the things that are really expensive are the things you buy that are costly. You buy them and you don't do anything with them. And you don't use them enough. That's what's really expensive. You buy a house, you never live in it. You buy a car that you never drive. You buy a firearm, you never shoot. You buy clothes you never wear. Stuff like that's just dumb. Use what you have and have what you use. And a light, you use that every single time. You'll never see me working on this without using this light. It'll never happen. A chair, not that this is an expensive chair, but a table. Every single time you're working on this, I'm using this $100 IKEA table or whatever, which I don't think I'll end up buying another one of. I mean, there's no reason. I'm extremely protective of it. Stuff like that. I would like, at some point, if I'm still in this room, to move that bookcase somewhere, because I would love for this to go all the way to the corner and then up a little ways. I would love all that to be a hobby area. And airbrush in here, for that matter. So, I love this room, but it's got a lot of space that I can't use. That's for stuff like that. you know. So, not a complaint, just an observation. I did see somebody's picture the other day on the internet that made me, excited. Let's put it that way. And it was extremely orderly. And it was extremely large. And as much as I like natural light is actually not very helpful. As a matter of fact, when the light comes in through the window here, which this room gets pretty good light, but I never open that window when I'm working on this stuff because it's like two different light sources and it's weird. If they were both the same type of light, it's one thing, but when you start mixing light types, it really messes with your color differentiation. But I love natural light, but it's not useful for this hobby. It's not useful to paint things for this hobby. Like for gaming, absolutely. The line on this figure cuts right through the face. So he's got kind of a deformed face, like he's been in a fire a little bit. So we'll just make the best of it. It'll turn out pretty good. Speaking of lights, I heard the other day they're going to pass a ban on incandescent light bulbs, which I don't plan to ever buy one again. I just don't like things being banned. With all the things the government mismanages, it doesn't need to take on more things. Like, you can't handle what we give you. But I don't know the last time I bought an incandescent light bulb. I wouldn't want one just because they put out heat. Yeah, it's another. Let the market decide. Oh, nobody's buying them. Well, fuck it. Let's not make them anymore. You know. There used to be LED stuff was put out some terrible lighting, but now it's great. Puts out. It uses no power. This uses no power. This uses like 13 watts. It's not LED, but I don't even know what the hell it is. That's an OT light. But I think when I bought this, the LED stuff wasn't available. But I love stuff that puts out no heat and no power. Well, my pain's about gone, so that's good. And it wasn't hunched over painting. This position's pretty comfortable. What happened with this white paint? It's just like it got dark all of a sudden. I mean, it dried out all of a sudden. Maybe I need to re-wet this palette. It's not doing its job as well or something. Seemed like it was plenty moist to me. Okay, that should be good enough for that. This guy's got a brown helmet. They use brown and black too, so we'll do brown on this guy as well. I got 3 sets of these guys, so I could probably do all these guys in brown helmets and be okay. Let's get out the one that's actually called leather brown. Now flat earth would work too, but they're all kissing cousins. I swear I came across it all the time when I didn't need it. There it is. So I wanted to do these guys because I didn't have to cogitate about putting the names on them, because these will not be anyone in particular. I'll probably put a small number underneath them. In other words, these can be crew members of a BT-7 or a T-34, depending on who bails out. It's not like it's not like I have to have 4 individual bailout guys that are named the same as they are inside the tank, because odds are they're not going to bail out, or some of them will die if it's time to bail out, and I won't need figures for them. So, with that said, I'm going to see if I can take this. This has got some paint in here. Yeah, look at that. Look at all that paint that wasn't coming out before. Dip it in water to stop that reaction from happening. There's still some on it. Let's see if I can use something that there it is. It was that one little, keeping those bristles from sitting next to each other. Okay, we're good now. Okay, perfect. Yeah, I don't want to use the super fine brushes if I don't have to. You just save them for facial features. You know, you don't need to use up all your miracles. You might need one. If you use up all your really detailed stuff on stuff that doesn't need to be that detailed, they'll be in shoddy shape by the time you need them for something important. Let's lighten this up a little bit. Getting back to what Barnes was saying about the head that fell off multiple times, I actually had a lot more trouble with the epoxying the antennas down than I thought I was going to. But it's forgiving. It still stays elastic for a little bit of time. You just have to coach it, put it there, and while it's drying, oh, it's trying to turn, straighten it back up, straighten it back up. And I think it turned okay. I don't know how durable it's going to be. But especially the Panzer II, I think turned out really well. It adds another dimension, having some vertical stuff coming off the vehicle. Sprue just wasn't cutting it. But I did file off the ends of that because you snip that thing and it has some kind of a point. It can go into your finger and maybe not draw blood, but it'll light you up. It'll wake you up. And I don't need to have that. Maybe a tiny little bit more for some extra highlight in a few places, and he should be done except for the little belts and stuff. But I like these rules because, even if you're just armed with a pistol, the pistol will go a decent distance away. It'll go like 16 inches away or something like that, I think. Something like that. What's the range on a pistol? I mean, obviously it'll go farther than that, but at some point, it just doesn't even give you a chance to hit anything. Let's see here. All the pistols are the same because ammo's kind of abstracted. Let's see, should be at the very beginning since it is a small arms. Tokarev, model 1933. Oh, it'll go 8 inches away. 8 inches away, okay. Pepe Shaw will go 30, even though it's the same round. Just effectiveness. Yeah. And rifles are kind of topped out at, rifles that don't have a scope on them are typed out at 76 inches. So just over 6 feet. So. And you can throw grenades 16. So you can actually, a grenade will go, you can throw a grenade twice as far than the range a pistol is effective. So obviously a pistol round will go farther than a grenade will, but your chance of hitting is just not there. So, but still, that's 8 inches. I mean, that's Still pretty decent. Pretty decent because the board isn't massive. You know. So like I said, it's an issue when you go crew exposed in this game with a tank. You know, just because you got a vehicle showing up on a tank doesn't mean they're actually crew exposed. There's a marker that shows it or not. It gives you a little bit of interest. Just think of it, each vehicle that it's kind of like a little mini diorama. That's why I kind of like the vehicles being on stands. But you go crew exposed, and you need to stay really far away from. You start getting closer than 6 feet from infantry, you're going to have problems. And unless you're playing on a tennis court, you're going to be in small arms range anytime you become crew exposed with a vehicle in this game. And that's just the nature of this game. That's just how this one is. Okay, we're going to do the belt color, and I'm going to do the pistol case first, and I'm going to use the same color. Their pistol cases tend to be sometimes varied a little bit. I'm going to use this red leather as a base. But you know, the rules just reflect what rules you use reflect on what you want to see in the game, what kind of experiences you want to do, what do you want, what narrative do you want to see played out, what decisions do you want to make, you know? I'm not interested in playing O group or command decision or anything. I've done all that kind of stuff before. I don't want to make those battalion level decisions anymore. I like a game where I'm putting this kind of detail in. Where the grenade lands is important. May not be for everybody. May not be for most people, but that's what I like to see. And I've done those other games before. It's not like I started with this. So I'm just gonna go ahead and use this color for all of the trappings on them. And that's interesting because this guy has this one that goes across there and never comes back down. It goes up to there and it never comes down the figure at any point. It's like a miscast. No, I'm just going to leave it alone. Like, hopefully nobody will notice. Let's add a little bit of white to that. And somebody was asking me last night, I forget exactly what their question is, but my answer was, when I go to play this, you guys will all see it because I'm going to film it. I'm going to film it to keep myself on track and continue playing it, but I need to refamiliarize myself a little bit. It is a multifaceted rule set that has a lot of detail in it, but none of it is abstract. So I fully admit it's not for everybody, but it is for me. And the only reason I have the amount of vehicles that I do is because I own them. I like doing them, and there's a chance they might see the battlefield. Not that they're all, not that we're going to have a battle, 24, 30 vehicles. If there's going to have 24 or 30 vehicles, I wouldn't have this many different types. All right, now we need to paint the black parts. I feel like this paint just dried way too fast. I may need to get the sponge out and reapply. And before I actually paint the boots, I'm going to go ahead and do the chocolate brown base of the basing. Because in painting the boots, I may end up scuffing the boots while I'm trying to paint this. So let's go ahead and paint this stuff out. I just use this straight. I don't thin that at all. That's going to take sometimes a couple coats. Let's use something that's big enough to. And where's my tool that I like to use so I don't end up wearing all of the paint? Handy. Let's find a spot that has the least amount of, has the most amount of surface area on there, so we can get a proper purchase on there. I forget exactly what the question was. It was just almost kind of like, hey, when are we going to see a video of your game? Well, I haven't played it yet. You're not going to be missing out on anything. There's just too many interesting. Now, it may be a boring video to watch because it's a slow-moving game, okay? But there's going to be some really interesting things that happen that would be a shame if it's not captured on video. So, but we may be a couple years off that. And that's not really the biggest motivator for me to do this stuff, is to play a game with them. I just want to do them just to do them. I'm enjoying this immensely. Disappointed that I put off as long as I did, but it is what it is. It's not like I didn't have any good time painting the 15mm Ancients. It's just that it's nice to be able to, like, okay, I feel like painting tank crewmen now, or now I feel like painting something else. Okay, so while that's drying, let's do the same thing with the black parts, which aren't that many. But I don't have the energy or time, especially the energy, to work on this and 15mm Ancients at the same time. I got to do one or the other. boot. We're going to call this guy done while he dries. Next, got another guy that's armed. This guy's got a paper shah. We'll do him next. And everybody quiet this morning. I know you're working on stuff. It's okay. People are listening, or the Chinese are watching, or both. Okay, same thing. This guy's got a blue jumpsuit. We got 3 sets of these crew members. So in other words, there's going to be 3 guys that have the exact same little pistol like this. We're just going to make their jumpsuits different, each one of them. You know, vary them a little bit. You know, fading and stuff like that. Let's cover these guys in a basic dark blue color, and then bring it up. Again, once again, will not be any painting tomorrow morning. And we'll be out of town. Besides, you didn't really want me painting. You really didn't want me painting in like a jumpsuit, like the Easter Bunny. Not that I have one of those. I don't want to go and paint all the figures that I have in this and try to do them all at once. I lose interest. I like doing them individually, one at a time. That's how I stay on track a lot better. Okay, John Peter, thanks for coming by. I'm sure you'll be on before you go on your tour. Dances with Tourists. I really like the Soviet view. Oh, so I was looking for my German Panzer crew. I found something I didn't know I had. I actually have an assault gun crew, like for like an Su-76 with the Soviet figures from, I guess it's Drew's militia, and they look pretty nice figures. I didn't know I had them, but couldn't find the Panzer crew. I mean, I have some Panzer crew guys. I just don't have the guys that I knew that I had from War Games Foundry. So. I'm not letting that mess me up from finishing the tanks, though. The tank screw up was the German crosses that I ran out of. So we'll have to take a look at that. And I didn't feel like painting them because they're bigger. If they're really, really small, like the ones that are on the Panzer II, I ended up hand painting those. Because you can't get ones that are that size. I mean, you could, but you have to get like 15 millimeter ones, and you'd have to buy them sight unseen. And some things it's difficult to buy online because you can't really gauge how big they are. And then you're like, who wants to buy something and then not do anything with it? So it'd be different if I was like going to a store. Hey Ben, going to a store and and picking them up and holding them up. Okay, these are probably the right size, but a store having German decals, yeah, those don't exist. Not here. I don't even have a store around here that would even have Flames of War stuff. No historical stuff whatsoever, regardless of scale. Regardless of scale. So I'm probably going to paint this whole set. So a third of these figures. So 1, 2, this is 3, 4, 5, 6. I guess the 6 figures. That should give me enough bailouts that, to represent in like the first battle that they come out. And these may not represent the actual weapons that they're armed with, because I've got some figures that are either unarmed, like this guy's just running like hell. Another guy's carrying a gas can, running like hell. Another guy has a wrench, The only way these figures would feature prominently in something is if the scenario was they were already bailed out and you have to go and get in a vehicle and bring it back. Other than that, they're not in this dismounted form. Things have to go sideways for them to be in this dismounted state. If they're dismounted, something happened that should not have happened. They got kissed by a pack. You know, the German tank crews for most of the war were all black, and you think, well, that's handy because if you get any grease on you, you can't tell that it's on you. However, the flip side of that is, if you have any grease on you, you don't know you have any grease on you, and you could end up getting it on something you don't want grease on. So, but we do have German tank crews also that are dismounted. I have those on white metal. They're from, I want to say they're Drew's Militia. We paint them as well. Yeah, if you're going to use vehicles, sometimes they're going to bail out, and you don't want to use like pennies. Well, pretend this is a guy here. I'm not going to spend all day painting. I'm leaving today, so I don't want to take on something that was too complicated that involved airbrushing or something like that. Although I wouldn't mind when I get back. I don't know when I'm going to get back. It might end up being too late. Having the RSO already painted. The Stug will have to wait until I find out the actually who the crew members are. I'd prefer to look greasy, plus it works for the Italians. Have you seen some of the Italian tank crew stuff? I mean, as far as tank crews go, the stuff that they wear. I mean, the Africa Corps stuff looks good. The British guys in the desert look good, and the British guys in Northwest Europe / Italy look good with the beret. Other than that, I am not a fan of the German tank crew uniform. I don't like the whole double-breasted thing. It looks weird. You know, I don't like people going into battle with a tie. It just looks. You remember this? If you ever build those old like model kits, like here's a tank commander, he's wearing a tie. Who the hell's working inside of a tank wearing a tie? You know, the American tank crew stuff looks stupid. I mean, you know, I'm sorry, I'm gonna call it like it is. You know, you're out there playing freaking football or something like that. You know, the Italian stuff looks silly too. Yeah, I need a little bit more of that color right there. Came across obscure unit yesterday, okay? The government army of Bohemia that got shipped to the Gothic line still using old pre-war Czech uniforms. Wow, that is strange. Yeah, if you're looking at Italy, there's some stuff in Italy that I consider it the forgotten front. You know, and I mean forgotten because of how big it is. You know, there's other things that are much more obscure than Italy, like, you know, Yugoslavia, okay? But in the scope of things, there wasn't the numbers of combatants weren't the same. But Italy's a major theater, and it's just kind of a forgotten kind of front. Um, And they make some beautiful 3D printed Italian buildings out there. Just beautiful. And I came across, who was it that makes like a whole bunch of Italian partisans? CP models, maybe? Somebody makes a ton of them. And I'm like, well, that's pretty cool. I have a 15 millimeter building that I plan on using as an Italian building. You know, it's almost like an old West building. It's supposed to be for some Mexican influence stuff. It looks Italian enough for me. You know, you got the tall roof. You know, just don't put somebody on the porch. It even has a little porch. Don't put somebody on the porch in the corner, huddled over with a sombrero. You know, you should be all right. Okay, I think this guy's highlighted enough for my taste. Speaking of Czech stuff, the all my SS from Combat Miniatures all are like early war stuff, like for France, and they all have Czech weapons. Their rifles are, I'm sure, Mausers, but their light machine guns are the Czech light machine gun. And you've got the machine pistols are not MP40s or MP38s, they're MP28s, they're Bergmans. Not exactly tripping over myself to paint SS guys, so. Okay, let's put more of this. This must be dry or dryish, because this stuff's drying a lot faster than I thought it was before. But I'm not going to go interrupt myself to go take care of that. Let's do this guy's face. Yeah, there's a company, I forget which one it is. They make a whole Italian village. It's really expensive. I can say it's really expensive, but man, you get a lot of stuff for it. But I gotta paint the stuff. I gotta paint the buildings I have, and kick ass with them, which I'm sure I'm going to. You know, I've watched a lot of videos of people. You know, okay, you spray and black, and you do this, and then you do a wash, and do another wash, and you do a dry brush, and then do a wash on top of the dry. Okay, so it's multiple steps. I get it. Okay, cool. You know, and we're gonna kick those out of the park, and we'll earn, you know, building really cool stuff like that. And I am looking forward to it. I am definitely looking forward to it. There's enough inspiration online. I think this is the leather one. Not that it makes that much of a difference. I could use that one just as well. There's enough coaching online that come up with some pretty cool stuff. Much better than the one building that I have painted. That is, see, I'm all over the place. I went to do the face and I'm doing the helmet color. Okay, fine, we'll paint the base helmet color first. We already have that on our paintbrush. There was an excellent article on the Flames of War site about the about the British armored units in Italy, the Commonwealth units in Italy, and I should say I'm not building Polish troops. If I'm building Polish troops for 1939, not ones that have the same gear as the Brits. Italy's stuff is fascinating. There's also Guido Jung, Mussolini's finance minister, who was Jewish, who took up a post in the co-belligerent army despite being a devoted fascist that hated Nazis. Interesting. Was he in the RSI? There's this whatever figure company I was talking about that made the Italian partisans. They make RSI troops as well. Yeah, Italy's interesting because you could have folks that are on competing sides, and the landscape's beautiful. I mean, what's not to like about an Italian landscape? You know, civilians, hey, get off of my lawn. And it doesn't get done. It's not popular. Talk about uneven ground, though. There's some serious uneven ground in a lot of these battles in Italy. Apparently, the Allies interviewed him, decided he was as fascist as can be, but because he hated Nazis, they didn't object to him being given a command. Oh, co-belligerent. Okay, so he wasn't RSI. He was the Italians that switched sides and fought on the Allied side. Okay. You got Brazilian troops that are in Italy. They're equipped like Americans, so I don't mind building other nations. I just want them in their own equipment. So, like I said, I'm all for doing polls. The problem is the polls would be 1939 polls, and I'm not painting Germans with white crosses. They'll just have to go. They'll have to use crosses like they did in France. It looks just dumb as hell. And once again, I will beat the dead horse. My British and my late war British are not going to have white stars on them. Looks stupid. I don't care what the reasoning is. I don't like it. Not every Commonwealth vehicle had white stars on it, so those will be the ones I model. Wolfman, welcome. Welcome back. How are things looking out there tomorrow? How does tomorrow, does the future look bright? You're probably the person that checks into this channel from the warmest climate. I bet it's warmer there than it is here. High humidity. Let's do the base color on the skin. Tomorrow looks great and always waiting for you to turn up. I hope to be there. I hope to make it to tomorrow. I'd rather not die on a weekend. It's been extremely warm here. I don't know if I told you this, but I think I did. There's a video that I came across of, I'm kind of a car enthusiast to a very small degree, but I watch a lot of car videos, and there was a car video that was shot, or at least they said it was shot, on a stretch of road between someplace in Malaysia and on the upper place. And it was this stretch of road where apparently there wasn't any speed or whatever, and these guys were just doing some crazy stuff on it. You're probably familiar with where it is. I could probably tell you where it is if I looked it on a map, but it was... it's the kind of stuff you do in a video game, not in real life, you know? You guys drive on the wrong side of the street, don't you? I think you guys do. One of the handful of places that I'm pretty sure. I said people think that wargaming is an expensive hobby. As far as hobbies go, this is a frickin' damn near free one compared to, you know, automobile. All the roads have a speed limit here and a lot of speed trap cameras. What was I looking at? All right, let's see if I can find out what this is. I will take the challenge. Let's see here. They might have closed it off for an event, and that might have been what it is. Let's see here. Let's do... see if I can find it quickly. God, it used to come up all the time, but I think it honestly was on Facebook. And what struck me about the video is the car actually did a 360. It did a 720 and kept going. Yeah, just crazy stuff. That's what video games are for. You don't need to do shit like that in real life. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to find it. Well, at some point I will find it, and then I will see if you know about it or whatever. Unless it was it was on a road that went up to like a casino or something like that. Let me do one other thing, and let's go to my favorite place, one of my favorite places in the entire world to go to, and that's Google Maps. I love me some Google Maps, and I'm on there all the time for work. And I love maps. And let's get a standard mouse out here. And see if I remember. Because I think very maply. I'll remember things and I'll remember their positioning on it. So let's go over here to your part of the world. And see if any of this rings a bell to me. Okay, it wasn't near Singapore. So I remember looking it up and I'm like, okay, let me do the Google image map or whatever. was a windy piece of road too. I want to say it was outside Penang, but I could be wrong. Oh well, I'll have to find it and go, hey, you know about this thing? Maybe it was something that was just off, closed off or whatever. But it was very, very memorable. There's a road heading up to the casino, but it's a windy road. And I go up regular casinos called Genting. Okay, now we're Genting somewhere. Genting. Let's see. What's this road look like? I bet that's it. I bet that's it. It was probably closed off for an event. This car did like a 720. It was on the Subaru site. It was a WRX that did a 720. It was racing I want to say a Civic Si or something like that. Let's see, why don't I have an option to layers? Here we go. Let's do that layer. Boy, we're running slow today. I'm sure that was the road. I'm sure this was the road. Oh yeah. Oh, that's that's an awesome road for that. I mean, I don't have the balls to drive like a maniac, even if it's legal. That's what video games are for. You know? You can have fun and be responsible. Just being crazy, nah. That's never been me. Yeah, I'm sure that's what it is. Yeah, 'cause this looks like a really decent road. So it must have been an event that they ran on there, but I remember this car did a freaking 720, didn't hit the side or anything, kept going. Yeah, that's it. Now let me zoom out and process where this is and everything, because well, now I need to get off this layer. Let's get on here. Okay, that's outside Kuala Lumpur. Okay. Yeah. Penang is the place where, if I remember correctly, there's a lot of things that happened. There's a lot of wargaming opportunities that happen in real life that don't get played. Okay, the road's on private property. That's probably why they got away with it. Um, there's a lot of things that I think are particularly interesting that happen in real life that don't get wargamed. And one of them was Penang. I believe that's one of those ports that the Emden went in World War One, and there were some ships that were at anchor and just created all kinds of shit in the middle of the night. And there's some really interesting things that happened in World War One in particular, naval, that don't get gamed. And that's one of those things that I remember. There was like a Russian ship that got broken in half or something like that. Friendships. I always want to play some scenario like that where you got like a port. Man, that's a lot of stuff to build. Okay, back to the face. Good. Well, that didn't take long. We put our heads together and came up with it. Yeah, it looks like a beautiful road. I'm not much for casinos though. I don't gamble playing war games, much less in an actual casino. I just don't have the personality type for that. I don't mind playing poker for money, but little stakes, very little stakes. So little stakes that they don't make any money off me. So, I go on cruises much and I've never gambled. Like $25 hands, get out of here. That's crazy. Are you guys on good terms? Is your country on good terms with Thailand? I think you guys are. That's the two places that all the Matchbox and Hot Wheels cars come from. Malaysia and Thailand. That'd be really cool to go to one of those factories that makes that stuff. I think that would be fascinating. Yeah, very good terms. That's great. You don't need to be fighting with your neighbor. You don't need to be fighting with anybody, much less your neighbor. Yeah, you guys are the two capitals of the die-cast car thing. That and they make quite a few where, but they make everything there. So where does this guy have his hand? He's got it on the front of this magazine. The thing about those Matchbox cars and stuff is the paint that they put on them is so thick. There's actually some decent amount of detail on them. If you take all that stuff off, they actually pretty decent models. Almost all of them. And a lot of stuff is just hidden under all the gunk. The ones I had when I was a kid I really liked was a company, and they were Japanese at the time, called Tomica. And the reason I liked them is they had doors that could open. Almost all of them had doors that opened. And they also, on the bottom, would always tell you what scale the vehicle is. And some of the other ones might do. Matchbox may do that as well. I know Hot Wheels doesn't. But, I got rid of mine, so I can't. I was getting ready to go grab one, but I believe I didn't get rid of them. They're just not here. I believe the Matchbox also tell you what scale they are, but you've been following these videos where they repaint toys. There's some talented freaking people. There's a guy on there, and I don't know if it's on Facebook or it's an actual YouTube channel, but he took like a Volkswagen. The one that's really memorable is he took like a Volkswagen bus, the old Type 2 bus from the 60s, 70s, and he, of course, took all the paint off and did the entire vehicle was hand painted with like a technical pen, and it was all done like in the style of like an Aztec calendar. So he painted the whole thing white, and he had He'd drawn all the glyphs, the Aztec type glyphs or whatever, with little skulls and things like that. And then he would clear coat it, and then he would paint on it almost in a watercolor like fashion. So there was some depth to it, and then he would clear coat. It was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. There's some amazing people out there that do some great work and really don't. They're really pros that I just feel like they just don't get enough inspiration enough recognition. Diecast included. Is that what the name of the channel is? There's some great stuff out there. How about that guy that goes out there and repairs old things and old keyboards and shit like that? That's like fascinating to watch. It's fascinating and satisfying to watch. He'll put together like an old Nintendo that doesn't work. Got a weird channel name. There's so much stuff out there. You don't need TV. Just YouTube just gets you where you need to go. There's so much stuff to watch. It's not TikTok crap. I really like the ability to order one digital magazine at a time. If you want to war games, soldiers, and strategy, you'll see some article that you're interested in, so you could just order that one magazine and you get it electronically. I like that ability because the subscription, they're into so many things that I'm just, I'm not going to pay Napoleonic stuff or Lace Wars things. I don't have enough time to diversify that way, and it's nice to be able to pick up when you don't have a place where it's available on the newsstand. Gotta go run a quick errand. Saturday errands. Sunday errands for you. We're going to try to finish this guy, and then we'll go and give this fellow. Let me make sure I didn't miss any spots on here before I go and cover this in yellow dry brush. I'm going to take a little break from this. I need time for this to dry, and let's go ahead and get this in the spots where you missed. I'm kind of hoping I can run out of this stuff soon, which isn't going to happen, just so I can try the AK one, because I do not like running this through the airbrush. It's a pain to clean up. It works fine. It doesn't jam, but when it's time to switch colors, it just takes way too long to do a wardrobe change for the airbrush than it should. We touched on this last night. Really nice to be able to do all of this kind of stuff, and it is all paint and materials that have no smell. It's quite a blessing, regardless of the manufacturer. I like AK and I like Vallejo. I like them both. They're different, and yet at the same time they're not. For airbrushing, I actually prefer the AK because it's done. I don't have to fool with it at all. Just a couple little spots that were missed. No big deal. And Ben, not sure if you're still on here. You probably wouldn't see any of these guys in Italy. That's just my guess. You're talking about stuff that you would encounter in Italy, and if I was retired, I would certainly take notes when I found things. I could compile a big list of cool shit that I found and things like that, but I don't mind taking notes. I never have. Even in school, I don't mind taking notes. Pretty good at it. Writing in bullet points and so forth. You know, and I could have just as easily glued this down facing forward and been perfectly happy with it, and then just used a counter to represent where exactly the gun was pointing, but I'd much rather like a physical representation of it. The crew won't be glued down. They'll be on pennies. So if this thing is facing a different direction, I can, adjust them or what have you. And my preference is to have them removable. So if they take some small arms fire and a couple of them get taken out, well, they won't be represented on the vehicle, you know. This thing was dreadfully slow. Like, it was slower than a Churchill. I think the top speed on this thing was like 8 miles an hour. That's dreadfully slow. And it was a bumpy as shit ride because that is short wheelbase. That thing was bouncing around like a freaking a Bren carrier, a top heavy Bren carrier. Because at least the Bren carrier was low to the ground. I'm really looking forward to finishing this thing off because it is such an ugly duckling. But I think when it's all done, it'll be a cool looking little thing. You're literally adding to the list right at this moment. Hastily scribbled down the stuff you told me yesterday, so I'm just doing further research on the 26th Panzer Division. Oh, we can do a whole episode where I can go through stuff and we can look at things. I love doing shit like that. I love doing. The only thing about the 26th Panzer Division is just had a silly symbol, that whole Panzer Grenadier thing. But most of the units in Italy were kind of, that's the only thing I don't like about Italy, is it just the units that are there, at least from the German side, are ones that are less than. They're not the most interesting from my viewpoint. But then I'm not putting. I said I wasn't going to put Panzer Division symbols on it, but I couldn't resist putting the trident from the second on the Panzer IV-J. But yeah, the 26th was out there. What's that ugly looking thing? That's right. RSO. It is ugly. It is ugly. It is my vote for one of the ugliest German vehicles. Normally, German vehicles aren't ugly, they're wicked looking. Like a Stuka. I don't think a Stuka's ugly. A Stuka just looks evil. Because if you're on the receiving end, it pretty much is. RSO. An RSO pack. Ugly. You like it? Oh, well, it's gonna look good. I'm telling you, it's gonna. By the time I'm done with it, it's gonna look good, and it's actually a really good game. It's a really good vehicle for a skirmish game because it has a lot of weaknesses. Oh, silly symbol. You like it? Oh, you do? Well, good for you. You like the Panzer the miter cap on the Friedrich the Great's guys. Yeah, sure enough, if you go to the Flames of War site, there's an article on Axis forces in Italy. Axis forces on the Gustav and Gothic lines. I don't play Flames of War, but they have some great stuff on that site that at least is like a great place to get started and then just go from there. 15th Panzer Grenadier Division. Reichsfuhrer SS. Arrived in May 44. What the hell is this? The 44th Reichsgrenadier Division, Hock und Deutschmeister. I have never heard of that in my entire life. I've never heard of that in my entire life. Look at this guy. It's got 3 grenadier regiments, a reconnaissance battalion, a Panzerjäger battalion with Stugs. 1 company with Stugs, 1 with Marder, 3 H's. Panzer Group Meyer with 8 Tiger 1s. See, you see something like this, you're like, okay, well, let's, you could like research any of those units and it might give you some symbols or, it's just cool to look at all that kind of stuff on there. 29th Panzer Grenadier Division. I was reading my Eastern Front book, or I was listening to it, and it mentioned a unit I never heard of, and it was the 23rd Panzer Division, I think is what it was. I'm like, how could I have never heard of this? I heard of the 22nd because it was built late, and it ended up getting Czech 38s in 1942, which is kind of unusual. And I've seen pictures of them in the sand color, which is really unattractive, but I'd never heard of the 23rd, and sure enough, it didn't survive much past Stalingrad. It fought in the battles of the encirclement of Stalingrad and got kind of beat to a pulp and never got reconstituted. 26th Panzer Division, 26th Panzer Regiment, 1st Battalion Panther, one battalion of Panthers, 1 of Panzer IVs. 93rd Panzerjäger Battalion, possibly Hornices, which is just another name for Nashorns, I believe. Hermann Goering, 90th Panzer Grenadier Division. Some interesting stuff on here. That was just yeah. And then they got later stuff in the Gothic line campaign. Got a Turkestani infantry division. Okay, here you go. Here's the units. The 508th, 504th independent Panzer battalions that both had Tiger 1s were in there. Let me send you this link, unless you may have already seen it. RSO looks like it would be alongside those early war Polish tankettes and the twin turret Russian tanks. Yeah. Yeah, it's just so basic. It's like a sheet metal. Okay, I need to do this in a different way. I need to go into the actual video, right? And click on it. And then I can post the link. I can't do it from my actual feed. And I will post this on there. The Flames of War site has some great stuff on there. And you may have already been aware of this one. You've got to hold up. Okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead and paste this for everybody else's benefit if you want to see it. I don't play Flames of War, but they have some great stuff on there. At least, like I said, it's a great starting point for your research. You know, they do the same, a great article about, you know, yeah, it's big, and sometimes it's hard to find some stuff you're looking for, but, you know, it's free. What do you want, you know? I mean, I like their vehicles and stuff like that. If I had never gotten into 20 millimeter, I got into it because of this particular sculptor. And when I did it, there was no 15s available in World War II, really. Oh, I lost it. I probably would have gone. I wouldn't play the rules because they're a little too basic for me. But I'd probably use their castings, you know, because they have enough variety and poses and stuff like that. So. Recent articles. What is this stuff I've never heard of? Look at this stuff. Infantry Division Ulrich von Hutten. Like who? Oh, it was formed in March 30th, 45. Yeah, I don't know that stuff. I don't know that stuff. I am going to do some 1945 German. I've got the paint set. I've got the paint set for this stuff with these green-based tanks and stuff like that. Yeah, there'll be like 3 of them and a shit ton of JSs. Yeah, Nordland. There's some great stuff on here. There's some great stuff on here. Inspirational stuff, just for, you know. Okay. So we got this guy completely covered in black because we're going to come back to him. How did the miniature sold? Well, let me show you a couple of the guys. This one's completely done. Like I said, these guys will show up on the battlefield when things went sideways. They should be inside their vehicle. There we go. As I like to see, the warts and all. You know, it's a Soviet tank crewman with a Tokarev pistol. And then this guy's done, but he's not sealed and his base isn't dry brushed. Now, I think his face turned out really well considering there's a seam line like over his nose. I had to clean that up a little bit. So, you know, here, warts and all, I'm really happy with it. So, he's holding the pistol wrong. He's got a teacup grip on the... Oh, well. I'm sure they didn't worry about training him and that kind of stuff. I've got to take a little bathroom break, and I will be right back. Oh, all right. Let's try it again with volume. I said, yeah, I think these guys turned out really well because, I'm nearsighted, so I can't. I mean, I see everything right there, so I can't have them look crummy. But it also needs to have some contrast at a distance, so it's kind of a balance between the two things. But we're not going to put names on them because I'll end up putting numbers on the bottom, and You know, you can put the number on. You know, when you if you actually bail out of the vehicle successfully, you know, your actual figure will be represented by, you know, you just pick one. Okay, that's number two, and that because like I said, that's you can't have four individual figures for every single vehicle or whatever the crew number count. I would never get done. That would just be absurd. That would just be absurd. That's taking things too far. But I do have Panzer troops as well. Dismounts. And these guys are from, I think they're from Drew's Militia. Yeah, I caught the no sound. They need to go out on my producer. The producer I don't have. Like I said, I keep making mistakes on here. I'm going to continue making them as much as, you know, I want to avoid them. You know, we got some guys here. Quite a few of them, actually. You know, I got some half figures, but this isn't the one I was looking for. So I'll probably put these guys as well, but they'll be the same thing for the Germans. And I think I got a few other. I don't know if I think I do as well, but you know, there needs to be a fair number of. I figure if you have one vehicle, at least half the crewmen painted, and all, you know, so they could possibly, you know, sometimes the vehicle's going to get knocked out and everybody in there's going to die. You don't need any crew members for that one, you know, but just better than, you know, using pennies and stuff like that. They're not a prominent part of the game. There's a couple of scenarios that I have that actually involves having a Panzer crew dismounted, and you have to go and recover a vehicle and remount it and get the hell out of there. Actually, I saw one scenario that actually involves a couple Panthers and a Berger Panther trying to recover the two Panthers while the Russians just pour in. That sounds interesting. Well, we got a couple Panthers now, and the third one to do, which means we're probably going to be opening up the T-34-85s that come out of them. It's like, oh man, we get two Panthers. That's awesome. Yeah, too bad they got to fight off 8 T-34-85s. Whoops, didn't count on that, did you? So. Okay, slight change of plans. My daughter is done earlier than planned, so I need to go grab her. So, anyhow, well, the good news is I got something done. I got to hang out with you guys for a while, and my freaking neck ache from hell went away. That's the most important thing. So I'm going to do that, and not leave until about noon. But I won't come back on. But that should give me enough time to come back and spray this guy out in the garage. I'll probably do that. And that way, when I get back from my trip, we can do the squirrely stuff. But always trying to be flexible, working on different stuff so that you can keep the momentum going. Even if it's something that, like, I can't get done because I don't have the German crosses, which is kind of sucks. I could hand paint them, but these vehicles look so damn good. They deserve to have decals. I mean, I am really, really happy with really, really happy with this guy. It is really a beautiful model, and it is an old model. Now, it's got some things that deserve for it to be on a stand. You know, like this little gap here in the tracks and stuff like that. When I put the goop and stuff on there, it'll just disappear. You know, but this is a nice little model. The H, which is actually a die-cast model, and I found all the little screws so we can screw her back together. You know, that's also a nice model, but that's the one I actually don't have the decals for. I had a lot of German crosses, but the decals were 30 years old, and you literally would put them in water and they would shatter in half. So that didn't work. This guy, which is actually kind of a crummy model, but we're going to add some extra armor and stuff. It's going to end up looking pretty good. It's going to have a Panzer Commander in there as well. This one came with the hatch closed. Otherwise, I'd put a Commander in there. And then this guy, the barrel's going to come in. This is a resin kit from BP Cast, which is rather crude and used to smell of mothballs. Thank goodness that went away. But there's a mothball, whatever mix that they had for the basing for the material. But this, I really like the way this camouflage turned out. And, you know, it's not weathered yet. So we put the crosses on there and the decals and weather it. So I am looking forward to finishing the things that I have. But I just got to keep working on different things, and you just got to be flexible. You know, just like when you're at work, sometimes you got to start 4 projects before you finish one, unfortunately. But main thing is don't put this down and say, oh, I'll give up modeling. Yeah, it's all good. So anyhow, thanks for coming by and hanging out with me for a little bit, even though it was kind of a short session, kind of got off to a late start, but we'll be back Monday through Friday probably. So we'll see you guys then.